Halfway through Can't Help Falling in Love, Elvis froze. His hand gripped the mic stand. The band faltered. 30,000 people leaned forward in the humid Tennessee night. In the front row, a teenage boy rocked in his seat, headphones on, cardboard sign clutched to his chest. Before we get to what happened next, if moments of pure humanity move you, stick around. You'll see why this night, according to those who were there, became one of Elvis's most talked about performances. The white jumpsuit hit the lights before Elvis even reached the mic. A sudden roar surged through the Mid-South Coliseum, swallowing the opening guitar riff. It was late summer 1975, Memphis heat sticking to the walls even inside the air-conditioned arena. Fans waved folded programs like hand fans, the scent of popcorn mixing with cologne and hairspray. Down on the floor, ushers in red jackets moved like chess pieces, blocking fans from rushing the stage. Elvis strode out with the kind of casual command you couldn't fake. Black hair slicked, high collar framing his face. The rhinestones across his chest caught the spotlights like flashes from 100 cameras. He hit the first line of CC Rider, and the sound was pure, unshaken. Third song in, just as the brass section hit a sharp accent, a ripple passed through the first few rows, something out of sync with the rhythm of the crowd. In row 1, just right of center stage, a teenage boy sat with his knees pulled tight. Oversized headphones covered his ears, muting the wall of sound. His fingers drummed against his thighs, not to the beat, but in his own pattern. Beside him a woman, his mother from the way she leaned close, held a small cardboard sign. It was homemade, black marker bleeding into the corrugated lines. Elvis. He's waited all year. She wasn't holding it high, just angled toward the stage, as if hoping for a moment when the man in white might glance her way. The spotlight swept, grazing their row for a split second, catching the gloss of the boy's headphones and the shine of sweat on the mother's brow. Elvis moved into the next verse without breaking stride, but his eyes, sharp, scanning, landed somewhere near the sign. The boy rocked forward, eyes fixed on the stage, but not quite meeting Elvis's gaze. Every so often he'd tap the side of his headphones, as if adjusting the sound inside them. From the back of the arena, the scene was just another moment in the ocean of fans. But in the front row you could feel the tension, like something was about to change. A woman 3 seats down leaned toward another fan and whispered, "I think he saw them." The band kicked into a guitar solo, and Elvis turned, walking toward the far side of the stage, but his gaze flicked back twice. The mother seemed to notice. She lowered her head, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek, almost like she didn't dare hope. If you'd been there, you wouldn't have thought much, until 20 minutes later, when the music stopped in a way it never had before. For now, the show rolled on. Burning Love lit up the arena. Fans in the upper decks stomped in rhythm, paper soda cups rattling against the floor. Stagehands in black darted across the wings, swapping guitars and towels. But every so often when Elvis crossed to that side of the stage, his eyes seemed to drift just for a second back to row 1. He didn't smile, he didn't wave, but there was a weight in those looks, the kind that meant he was making a decision. The mother held the sign a little higher, just enough so the words caught the light again. The boy kept rocking, completely unaware of the stares from the crowd behind him. By the time the band eased into Can't Help Falling in Love, something in Elvis's posture had shifted. Shoulders lowered, pace slowed. He moved toward the center mic, eyes scanning forward with purpose. And that's when it happened. The first sign that this wasn't going to be a regular show. Halfway through the second verse, Elvis raised his hand. Halfway through the second verse, Elvis's left hand came up, palm out. The kind of gesture that didn't need words. The band knew to stop. The last note from James Burton's guitar hung in the air before fading into silence. Even the brass players froze. Instruments halfway raised. The sudden quiet was startling. You could hear the faint hiss of the amplifiers. Someone in the balcony coughed, and the sound seemed to bounce off the rafters. The spotlight locked on Elvis, He was still, except for his eyes. They scanned the first few rows, deliberate. Search. Security on both sides of the stage straightened. The lead guard, stationed just left of the steps, took half a step forward. Instinct. Elvis gave a small shake of his head. He started walking, not the showman's strut from earlier, but a steady measured pace toward stage right. The mother in the front row noticed before anyone else. Her hand tightened on the cardboard sign. She didn't lift it higher. She didn't wave. She just froze, eyes wide. The boy was still rocking gently, his gaze unfocused, lips moving to words only he could hear through his headphones. Elvis stopped at the very edge of the stage, just above them. From here he could see the scuff marks on the floor, the shine of the boy's hair under the lights. He crouched, slow, careful. His white pant leg brushed the black stage mat. A murmur rippled through the front row. The microphone in his right hand tilted slightly downward, away from his mouth. His left hand rested on his knee, steadying himself. The boy's mother leaned forward, just enough that her shoulder touched her son's. Up close, Elvis could see the writing on the sign. He read it once, then again. His eyes softened. Behind them, fans craned their necks, trying to catch a glimpse of what had pulled the king's attention away from the show. Somewhere in the darkness, a camera flash popped. The burst of light reflected off Elvis's belt buckle for an instant. He didn't speak, not yet. The pause stretched longer than anyone expected. The audience was used to transitions measured in beats, not seconds, and this was seconds-long ones. From the back of the arena, the stillness looked like a freeze, but in the front, it felt alive, like the whole building was holding its breath. Those who were there say it was in this silence that Elvis decided what to do next. A decision that would break show protocol and be talked about for years. He adjusted his grip on the mic, leaned forward another inch, and for the first time all night smiled directly at the boy. And just like that, the room's energy shifted. 30,000 strangers leaning into one unspoken question. Was Elvis about to bring the show to a complete stop? Just for him. Elvis shifted the mic to his left hand and leaned closer. "Hey buddy," he said, barely above the noise of the crowd, but just loud enough for the first few rows to hear. The boy's rocking slow, his hands still resting on his lap, stopped tapping. Elvis hummed the first 4 notes of the chorus, soft and warm. It was off mic, almost private. The boy tilted his head, eyes focusing for the first time on the man in front of him. His lips, he mouthed the words back, quiet, halting, but on pitch. A ripple passed through the front row. You could hear gasps, the kind that came with realizing you were watching something rare. Elvis smiled. Not the stage grin, but something smaller, gentler. He lifted the mic toward the boy. The mother's hands fluttered to her face. She looked between her son and Elvis, as though she wasn't sure if she should encourage him or protect him. The boy leaned in, barely, and sang the line again. This time, the mic caught it. His voice was thin, but steady. From the sound booth, the tech froze. He didn't lower the fader. The boy's voice carried through the PA, over the heads of 30,000 people. A cheer rose from somewhere in the upper levels. Then, slowly, others joined. The cheer softened into a wave of voices, thousands singing along, filling in the spaces between the boy's quiet words. Elvis stayed crouched, nodding in rhythm, guiding the boy through another line. He didn't rush it. He didn't try to make it perfect. He just let it happen. The spotlight above shifted slightly, catching the sheen on the boy's headphones. The cardboard sign slid from his mother's lap to the floor, forgotten. The music behind them was minimal now, just a faint guitar, a gentle brush on the snare drum. The band was following Elvis's lead, stripping it down, so the moment stayed pure. A woman in the second row pressed both hands over her mouth. A man beside her swayed, eyes closed, as if holding on to the sound. The boy glanced up, meeting Elvis's eyes direct. Elvis nodded once, firm but kind, as if to say, "You're doing great." The boy's voice grew a little louder. The crowd, sensing the change, sang even more softly, letting him lead for a moment. By the final line of the chorus, it felt less like a concert, and more like 30,000 people standing in one small circle around a single shared voice. Elvis let the last note fade. He tapped the boy gently on the shoulder, then looked up toward the crowd, and in that look it was clear. He wasn't done yet. This wasn't going to be just a song. He stood slowly, mic still in hand, and turned toward the center of the stage. The boy's mother leaned forward, eyes locked on him, bracing for what might happen next. Would Elvis take this moment even further? Elvis stepped back from the boy, but not far. His right hand reached up to his neck, fingers brushing over the silk scarf draped there, the one he'd worn since walking on stage. He tugged it loose with a single motion. The fabric caught the stage lights, flashing white and blue as it unfolded. The boy's mother clutched her son's arm. She seemed to understand before anyone else what was about to happen. Elvis crouched again. The crowd leaned forward like a single body. 30,000 breaths held in sync. He placed the scarf gently around the boy's shoulders, letting it settle against his t-shirt. For a moment, he didn't move, his hands resting lightly on the scarf, eyes locked on the boy's face. The boy reached up and touched the fabric between his fingers. His rocking slowed to stillness. Somewhere behind them, a camera shutter clicked. A fan in the third row began to cry quietly. Elvis leaned in and wrapped one arm around the boy. It wasn't the quick hug he gave fans in the autograph line. This one lingered, steady, protective, his hand pressed gently against the boy's back. The mother's lips trembled. She held one hand over her mouth, the other resting on her son's knee. From the stage wings, a member of the band shifted his weight, watching the scene like everyone else. The music was holding soft, suspended, waiting for Elvis's cue. He pulled back slightly, still keeping one hand on the boy's shoulder. Then, looking at the crowd, he lifted the mic again. Instead of picking up mid-verse, he started the chorus from the top, slower, deeper. His voice rolled through the arena, but his eyes never left the boy. The crowd caught on instantly. Thousands began to sing with him, voices rising and falling in unison. The sound swelled, filling every corner of the space. The boy didn't sing this time. He just sat there, scarf in hand, listening, but his gaze stayed fixed on Elvis, soaking in every note. As the final line faded, Elvis lifted the boy's hand into the air, holding it there for the crowd to see. A roar erupted, a standing ovation sweeping like a wave from the floor to the top rows. In the chaos of applause, Elvis gave a quick nod to the mother, a look that said, "Thank you for letting me share him with all of them." He stepped back toward the center of the stage, the spotlight following. The scarf still rested on the boy's shoulders, a bright slash of white against the dark seats around him. The concert would continue, but for the family in the front row, something far more personal was about to happen after the final bow. When the lights went down, they weren't heading for the parking lot. The final chords rang out. Elvis gave his trademark half bow, tossed a few scarves into the crowd, and disappeared into the shadows of the stage wings. Most fans surged toward the exits, but down in the front row, the mother didn't move. A security guard in a black jacket appeared at her side. "Ma'am, would you come with us?" he asked quietly, leaning so his voice didn't carry. She looked startled. "Is something wrong?" The guard shook his head. "This way." The boy still wore the white silk scarf, his fingers rubbing the edge of it over and over. He followed his mother up the aisle, past seats littered with crumpled programs and half-empty soda cups. They were led through a side door into a dimly lit corridor. The hum of the crowd outside faded, replaced by the low whir of ventilation. The scent of cologne and hairspray from the arena was replaced with something earthier: old wood, faint sweat, and the faint tang of electrical equipment. Another guard joined them and opened a heavy black door. Inside was a small lounge, with mismatched chairs, a couch, and a folding table holding paper coffee cups. A lone stagehand passed through, carrying a guitar case. The boy sat, still rubbing the scarf. His mother perched on the edge of the chair beside him, glancing toward the door every few seconds. The minutes stretched. Footsteps echoed in the hall, coming closer, and then he appeared. No spotlight, no entrance music, just Elvis, still in his jumpsuit, hair damp from the heat of the stage. There was no entourage behind him. The mother stood, startled. Elvis smiled,
and gave a small wave. Before walking straight to the boy, he crouched down so their eyes were level. "You did good tonight," he said softly. The boy's gaze flicked to his face, then back to the scarf. From behind his back, Elvis produced a small package, wrapped in plain brown paper. "This is for you." The boy hesitated. His mother nodded. He reached out and took it, turning it in his hands. "Go ahead," Elvis said. The paper tore away, revealing a polished harmonica. On one side engraved initials gleamed. EP. The boy's lips curved into the smallest smile. He held it up to his face, pressing it gently against his chin. Elvis ruffled his hair lightly. "Thought you might like that better than a guitar." The mother's eyes glistened. "You didn't have to do this," she whispered. Elvis gave a slow shake of his head. "Sometimes you just do what you should." He stood, giving the boy's shoulder a final squeeze. Then he turned toward the door. The boy didn't know yet. This wasn't the last gift Elvis would give him. A week later, something unexpected would arrive in the mail. 7 days later, the boy's mother opened her front door to find a small padded envelope on the porch. No return address, just their names, written in neat block letter. She carried it inside, heart beating faster than she expected. The boy sat at the kitchen table, scarf still draped around his neck like it belonged there permanently. His fingers traced the embroidered edges without looking up. She set the package in front of him. "It's for you." He ran his hand over the paper, the way he did before opening any present. Then carefully, he peeled back the flap. Inside, folded in thirds, were 2 stiff pieces of cardstock concert tickets. Front row, same venue, same seat numbers. The show was 3 months away. Tucked alongside was a single sheet of white stationery. In blue ink written by hand were 7 words. "You'll always have a seat waiting. Elvis." The boy's mother covered her mouth. She read the line again, slower this time, letting it sink in. The boy picked up one ticket, holding it close to his face. He didn't say anything, but the corners of his mouth turned upward. His thumb brushed over the printed date, then over the handwritten signatures, as if he could feel the words themselves. The mother placed the note gently on the table, smoothing out the fold lines. "We're keeping this forever," she said quietly. Word spread quickly, first through friends, then to local reporters, then to the growing network of Elvis fan clubs across the country. By the following week, fans were retelling the story in letters, in fan magazines, at kitchen tables. Witnesses described the scarf, the duet, the hug, but it was the follow-up, this quiet, private gesture that struck hardest. One fan wrote in a newsletter, "It wasn't about being seen, it was about making someone feel like they belonged." The boy attended the next concert, just as the tickets promised. Same seat, same view. This time, Elvis spotted him almost immediately. He gave a small nod from the stage before the first note was played. A private recognition in a sea of strangers. For the boy, the harmonica stayed by his bed. He would sometimes pick it up and blow a single note, just to hear the sound. The scarf hung, framed on his bedroom wall, right beside the ticket stub and the note. Years later, the family would say that night, and the weeks after, changed the boy's confidence. It was proof that someone he admired had seen him, heard him, and remembered him. In Elvis circles, the story became one of those "if you know moments, rare, personal, and fiercely treasured by those who witnessed it. Even today, according to longtime fans, you can still find grainy photographs from that concert pinned to bulletin boards in Memphis diners, or tucked into scrapbooks in small-town living rooms. The scarf in those photos looks almost impossibly white against the dark stage, a flash of kindness, captured in the middle of a performance. It's been told that Elvis kept the mother's original sign, folding it carefully, and storing it with other mementos from the road. True or not, the image of it, creased cardboard with black marker letters, still makes the story feel whole. That summer night in 1975 wasn't recorded for an album, it wasn't televised, but for 30,000 people and one boy in particular, it's remembered as a moment when music stopped, and something greater took its place. Sometimes the loudest ovations come from the quietest acts. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes kindness can stop a room, and tell me in the comments, what's the one moment you've seen that made an entire crowd fall silent?